I run into people all the time that are living right up to their income. They make more money, they spend more money, and their income and their expenses are identical. But when you really look at that and you really look at somebody that's income and their expenses are identical, a lot of times you really have to not so much look at their income. I mean, we can always say, oh, go make more money, go work overtime, get a second job. Who wants to do that? Mm-hmm. The gurus or the Dave Ramseys of the world say, oh, eat rice and beans. And then when you're sick of rice and beans, eat, beans and rice. You know what I say? I say, I like Starbucks and I'm not going to stop drinking Starbucks. I'm going to find a better way to make my Starbucks possible, right? That's what I do.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else with your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grinzik. With me, as always, is John Cohen. How's it going, bud?
We're good. Off to a interesting Tuesday morning before Thanksgiving, but we're good. I got no complaints.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind on time. I know this has happened a couple times lately, but we'll get it right one day. You would think after 100 episodes or more, we'd have figured it out, but it's all right. We're just still making it up as we go. So anybody sitting there wondering, thinking, oh, these guys are professionals, don't kid yourselves. It's
not a bit.
You're always figuring it out. But excited for today's guest. We were talking for a while beforehand, getting into a ton of stuff. So I'm really excited to see where this can go, because it could go one of 100 different ways, and each one of those 100 would be amazing. So I'm already going to preemptively say, we're going to have to do a part 2. But with that being said, Chris, thanks so much for joining us, bud.
I'm honored. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, for sure. So kick us off, a few minutes, your background, your experience. Let's hear it.
Just a normal guy. Grew up in Buffalo, New York, in a very lower middle class family. Didn't have any money, but had dreams. Mom always taught me to dream huge. And, one of the interesting things, and I always talk about this, when I was a kid, Buffalo, New York isn't the mecca for pro snowboarders, but that was my dream. That was what I wanted to do. That was the only thing I cared about. And, I did what everybody else was unwilling to do. And that led me to the path of being a pro snowboarder, which is, kind of what a lot of people love talking about, but we're not going to really go there. We're going to actually talk more about, the next phase of my life, which was when I was 16. I'd always worked on farms, but at 16, I got a real big boy job working at a restaurant. And that restaurant owner degraded me so badly that I quit one day, and I came home and I said, Mom, I quit my job. And I was thinking, when you quit, you think your mom's going to be upset. And she said, good, don't ever let anyone treat you that way. And I said, okay, Mom, I want to start a clothing line in the basement. Can I do that? So that was where my first business started, is Fat Clothing Company, PHAT, started in the basement at age 16. But on my journey to being, a pro snowboarder as an amateur, I was traveling around selling my clothing across the Eastern Seaboard, from Buffalo to New Hampshire. And I started seeing all these guys who owned these shops. They had this lifestyle business. And I'm like, that's what I want. So 17 years old, next big dream is I want my own store. Fat Man Board Shops. I had Fat Clothing and I was the man. So put the two together and that's what you had. I needed 70 grand. I had a 1986 Buick, a baseball card collection, and I don't know what year, but a KX 125 in the garage. And I was out to raise $70,000. And I got told no by every single person. My father even said, son, put this dream behind you and come work at the factory. You'll get a pension and all this. And I didn't talk to my dad for 2 years. That's not a store we're going to. But I remember before that dream died, my mom, who had nothing but the house that we lived in that she got in the divorce, my mom never chased her dreams. And she said, you know what, Chris, I'm going to put the house, the only thing I have, up on the line so that you, my crazy punk snowboard kid, can chase his dream. And that's what she did. Really stupid, foolish thing to do, but she did it. So, and that's where Fat Man Board Shop started. And that was 1994. And it is now 2020. That store still exists. I did sell it off, but that's just the power of, your thoughts becoming reality. And those realities happen because you dream bigger and those dreams scare you. But those dreams lead me into the next phase, which was the early 2000s. Pro snowboarder, loving life, traveling around, just loving every minute of it. Had my stores. I think I had 2 locations. And then the recession hit, the .com crash, in the early 2000s. I'd never seen a recession before. I didn't even know what it was. But I realized, holy crap, my sales are dropping. I got to get a job. Do I deliver pizzas for Little Caesar or do I go out there and get a job? I landed in Wall Street. of all places, right? This punk snowboard kid lands in Wall Street. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And that's because everything's meant to happen the way it does. So from that year in Wall Street, which was supposed to be a part-time thing just to get me through, these hard times, I rose to be one of the top advisors. And over the next many years, all the way up to 2008, I was one of the top 3 advisors at the firm, making a ton of money. I got into real estate in 2006, flipped 2 houses by 2008. And then my next dream, buy a big building, convert it into a strip mall and move my shop into it. Because why pay someone else rent when you can pay yourself rent? And that was where that began. But I think you heard when I did this, 2008. You guys remember that? Not exactly the right time. I borrowed a lot of money from a hard money lender, and then recession hit. 2008 hit me like a Mack truck. And I was literally one payment away from being bankrupt at this point. So I'll never forget the day my girlfriend, had just moved into my house. And I came home. I was literally going to lose it all right then and there. And I said to her, sweetie, I need your help. I need your help paying the mortgage. I need your help paying the utilities. And by the way, my friend Pete's moving into that bedroom and my friend Jessica's moving into the bedroom upstairs. Any questions? I had a 50-50 shot. She was going to walk out the door and I'd never see her again. Or I was going to find out, did she really like me? Well, I think she kind of liked me because we ended up getting married and had a kid. But that was what got me through that. 2009 to 14, I'll fast forward through this. I got into real estate. I dove in, I took the money I made in Wall Street and I bought real estate, pennies on the dollar. I got up to 36 units by 14. You would think that everything was back on track. I took my 37th deal to the bank. They said, no, kid, you don't fit in the little square box called debt to income ratio. We can't give this mortgage to you. No big deal. I don't need the 37th unit. Then they went on to freeze my lines of credit, which obviously in real estate, when you're developing properties and building properties, you need that capital. They took it away from me. Then they called my mortgages because I got behind it a little bit. I had to sell all 36 units, had to sell the dream house that me and Larissa had bought. So you can see this roller coaster pattern going on here, right? 2000, lost a little bit, didn't lose it all then. 2008, lost it all, climbed back by 14, lost it all again. In 2014, when that happened, I hit the lowest point in my life. Literally, like the point where you start thinking to yourself, do I turn my wheel really hard to the left into that tree, or do I really, who am I? What am I going to do? And that led me to none other places than a 3-day event, a 3-day real estate event to learn how to flip houses. And let me be very clear with your audience. I didn't go to learn how to flip houses. I thought I knew how to do that. I went because they were giving away a free iPod shuffle. It got me to the event. And at that event, I met 2 people, 2 of the speakers. One had a show on A&E flipping houses. The other guy was the bank. Very high net worth individuals. And I remember listening to them and they were talking about money, which was my space, right? I was an advisor. And all of a sudden they start talking about how they're using money, what they're doing with money. And I'm like, wait a second. This is the complete opposite of every single thing I've ever learned about how money works. It literally defies everything that I learned in Wall Street. At that moment, I questioned everything. Everything was on the table and I had a chopping block. Like, this is what we're getting rid of. And I dove in. I went deeper in debt. I maxed out credit cards to learn from these guys, to mentor with these guys, to follow the wealthy around. And I literally, from 2014 to right up till today, I've made it a mission to go out and learn the truth about how money really works, the secrets of the wealthy. Why is it that the wealthy do something totally different than what we do? And there's got to be something to that. And I've uncovered those secrets. And that's what I do today. I teach people how money works. I teach them the truth about money and how to make money work for you. But most importantly, how to take back control of your money. That's led me and my wife to a show on HGTV called Risky Builders in 2018. I sold and retired from Wall Street in 2018. We've done 263 flips to date. And that's what I do now. I just teach people the truth. Sorry, that was a little long.
No, I love it. I think it provides a lot of context. And I think, like I said, as people can probably see, we could go in a multitude of different directions from there. But when we were talking, I said to you, one of the things in the last 12 to 24 months that has really piqued my interest is, definitely the money side of things. I think I got started 5 years ago, trying to understand real estate, get involved and kind of find my niche and get involved. And then you start learning more about money. One is you start making a little bit, and 2 is you start seeing how other people get it, how other people accumulate it, and the multiple different ways it goes. So what was that wake up call for you? Like, was there one specific thing? Was it just one like totally 180 to a way you knew how to manage money at the time through Wall Street? Like, what was that for you?
And that's a great question. And I get asked that all the time. What was that one moment where all of it, that light bulb goes off and you're just like, I'm doing it all wrong? And that moment came in Salt Lake City in 2015, sitting with Mike. And he was the guy that had the A&E show. And he's telling me, now I borrowed a lot of money from Mike and from Greg. Like that's how I funded a lot of these deals. And we're sitting there at Cheesecake Factory and he's telling me about how he's lending money to me in this vehicle he's using. And I remember I sat back in my chair and I'm like, Mike, I said, dude, listen, I'm an advisor at a pretty high level. And what you're saying makes no sense. As a matter of fact, Mike, that sounds too good to be true. And what I know about that doesn't exist. And he looks me in the eye. Literally, he's like, almost like that movie, I'm watching you. He looks at me and he says, if this isn't how it works, then how have I been lending you money this way? And I sat back and I said, touche. And I dove in and I started learning about this one change that he made in his life that changed everything, and how he started using this vehicle, which we're going to talk about, this vehicle that he uses, this machine to move his money. Because folks, listen, money is made out to be so complicated, but money is nothing more than a stupid tool we use to get the things we want. It's our permission slip to live the life we want. That's all it is. Don't make it out to be anything different. But the problem is our whole lives, we're taught to work for money. We're taught to go out and work and make money, and we make money. And what do we do with our money? We give up control of it, don't we? Think about where your money goes every day when you get paid, right? You get a big check. Where's the money go? It goes to somebody else. You give up control of it. You put it in a 401k, you put it in the bank. The rest of it goes to pay your credit cards, your car loans, and everything else. And that's the cycle that we've been taught to do. Give up control of your good dollars today to get paid back with weaker dollars. And then when we need money, what do? We go borrow it and we pay somebody else interest. 90 cents of every dollar statistically goes to somebody else on our paychecks. That is a problem. We need to start learning how to take back control of our money, which is so simple. And I will tell you how to do that because we have time to cover it. Take back control of your money by changing one thing in your life. And that one thing is just where your money goes first. That's all you got to change. So that's what Mike told me. He told me where his money went first. I'm thinking Mike's putting money in Wall Street. Mike's putting money in bank accounts. No. Mike said to me, he says, listen, I know a lot of very wealthy people. He's a Salt Lake City guy. He's like, I know a lot of very wealthy multimillionaires and billionaires, and every one of them do this. They don't put their money in banks. They don't believe in banks. They don't trust banks. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, even though they're in banking, folks, they don't put their money in banks. I've created documentaries proving this on what the wealthiest Americans, from Ray Kroc to Walt Disney to the Rothschilds, do different with their money. And folks, it's just one additional step. And that one change, well, before I get into that, I got to give you a quote, because I remember when I first was told this, and I remember thinking, no freaking way. And it brings me to this quote that Will Rogers once said. Will Rogers made a quote and he said, the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. You guys have heard that statement before, right? Have you heard Will Rogers?
Yeah.
It is one of the most true statements, especially given the times. And now what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you what this one change is. This one change, he said to me, he says, listen, I don't trust banks. I don't put money in banks because all they do is pay me nothing and go out there and make 400 to 1,300% on the deposits I make. So I want those returns. So I change where my money goes. And where he started telling me he put his money was in giant mutually owned insurance companies. And I said, why and how? I know how insurance companies work. I sell life insurance and all this stuff as a financial advisor. Like, how are you getting this money? How do you get the insurance companies to take your money? He says, here's how I do it. He said, the same way the banks do it. He said, banks are the number one depositors into these mutually owned insurance companies. And where they do it is through a vehicle that we all know about, but don't understand, called whole life insurance. So, and that's the point where I'm like, okay, dude, you lost me. Like, whole life, really? That's the worst place you can put money. Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey told me that's the worst place I can put my money. And he said, no. He said, I'm not putting money in life insurance. He says, I'm building banking systems using this machine because I'm not using it for life insurance. He said, I'm doing it totally different. I'm doing it the same way the banks do it. He said, it's called privatized banking. You haven't heard of that? I said, I don't know. No, not really. And he says, here's how I do it. I change where my money goes first, and I put it into these specially designed and engineered whole lives. Okay. And I said, okay. And then he said, once I put it there, the insurance company promises and guarantees me contractually to pay me 4% guaranteed on my money. So that's not too bad. And he said, but they're mutually owned insurance companies. So they also pay me a dividend every year based on the performance of that insurance company. And these are 160 plus year old insurance companies. I said, well, that's good. What are you making? He said, north of 6%. I said, that's pretty damn good. I can't even get that in Wall Street, man. Wall Street, I'm lucky to get 7% average for my clients, and I got to ride the roller coaster. And he says, well, I don't. I just get paid that no matter what. But he said, here's the best part. I put my money there and then I take my money out. I said, no, you can't do that. Whole life doesn't work that way. He says, it's because you don't know how whole life works. He said, you think whole life is a policy you take out so that someday later when you graduate, folks, graduate's not high school. It's just the nice way of saying the day you die. The day you graduate, that somebody else is going to get paid a big chunk of money. He says, no one I know cares more about the money somebody's going to get when I die than they do about the money they have while they're living. And I said, true that. So he said, so I put my money here. And then I take my money out. But when I take my money out of this insurance company, I'm not taking my money. My money stays in there. So if I deposit 10 grand, my 10 grand is earning 4% plus dividend. And then I have the ability to take that money out, maybe not all of it in the first year, but I have a large chunk of that I take out and I lend that money to you at 12%. I said, okay, so let me get this straight. So you make a deposit and immediately in the first 30 days, my dumbass comes to you, excuse me for swearing, but hey, we got to be real here. My dumbass goes to you and asks for a loan, and you just go to your policy and take this money out, and you're not even giving me your money. Whose money are you giving me, Mike? And he says, the insurance company's money. The insurance company's got all the money, and they're glad to give me that money because what they do is they pay me 6%, and I'm charged 5% by the insurance company. So the insurance company charges me interest on that money. They call it a loan, but this is a loan I don't have to pay back. And I said, Mike, no one's given loans that don't have to be paid back because, Mike, are you going to give me that loan and I don't have to pay you back? He said, no. He said, but you see, the insurance company already made a promise to me. The insurance company promised me 4% on my money, guaranteed. I said, yeah, you already said that. He said, they also promised that someday when I die, they're going to pay a death benefit to somebody that I love, my beneficiary. I said, right, that's the life insurance. He said, exactly. He said, but the insurance company doesn't care whether you use that death benefit while you're living or when you die. And I said, wait. I said, so the insurance company's lending you your death benefit while you're living? He said, precisely. And all I'm doing is I'm making deposits of the money that I would normally give to the bank, give to Wall Street, give to, someone else. I just give it to my bank. And then I take money from the insurance company based on the amount I have on deposit and the growth I have. And then I give it to you at 12%. He was making money twice. He's making 12% on me for doing the private loan. He's taking the interest he's getting from me, putting it back into his policy, and then basically regenerating the money. And the whole time this is happening, he's making uninterrupted compound interest, which I always thought I understood compound interest, but I had no clue. Because compound interest, as Albert Einstein calls it, is the eighth wonder of the world, the greatest, most powerful thing in the financial world. Those who understand it earn it, those who don't pay it. There's an important lesson. We all have learned how to pay interest, not earn interest. So I'm going to stop right there because I just unpacked a lot. But that's that change. All you have to do, folks, is change one thing in your life, one step, where your money goes first, and everything else continues on. And you literally have just learned what the wealthiest individuals in the world, not just this country, but in the world, have known for hundreds of years and have used for hundreds of years.
So the one thing that hasn't been clear to me, and it's not really a hard question, and I always thought it was the same as like an IRA or something, is that the money that's earned on the money you borrow has to go back into the policy, correct?
The money that's earned on the money you borrow, meaning the 5% the insurance company charges you, or
Correct.
the 6% you're making?
No, when he lends the money out at 12%.
Okay.
So he gets it. The bank charges him 5, he lends it to you at 12, you make a delta of 7, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
That 7%, that has to go back into the policy, correct?
Absolutely incorrect. No, not in these policies. These are non-qualified policies. They work just like your savings or bank account. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking of how an IRA would work, or a self-directed IRA. In that case, your IRA, because that's a qualified account, a qualified retirement account. So when you make interest, let's call it the 12%, that money would have to go back into your IRA. Otherwise, you have to pay tax on it. This money over in this policy, okay, all the money that builds internally, that 6%, is all tax-free and private. You don't have to report it at the end of the year. Your IRA is not private, which means every year you have to report these earnings. If you take money, you have to pay tax. Very different on that side. Great question though. I mean, yeah. So the money, that 12% he was making, he could have just gone out and blew it, bought a fancy car, bought another real estate deal, invested in your syndications. He could have done anything with it.
Gotcha. But he's not technically making 12 because he's paying the life insurance 5, right?
Nope. See, you missed that. So take the 12 and keep that over on the right side. Okay. The 6% he's earning in his policy, that's the amount he was making. And out of that 6%, the insurance company is charging him 5. So he's making a delta of 1 right there, right? He's making a spread of 1%. So he's up 1% just for using his own money. So the 12% he's making really is unaffected because you already got rid of that 5% cost with how much you made. So if you make 6 and you pay 5, you're positive 1. In that case, like, do any of you know a bank that you can deposit your money in? 30 days later, go into your bank and say, hey, I'd like to take 50, or let's say 90% of the money I just put in the bank out. Will you still pay me interest on the full amount that I deposited? The bank would laugh at you, but the insurance company won't. The insurance company will pay you full interest and dividends on the money you have in the account and will allow you to take all or some of it, or even more than some of it out. And we'll get into like what I mean by that. The first year is the worst year in these. Like when you deposit money, the first year in these vehicles, you're going to have access to 60 to 90% of your money immediately. And I said immediately in the first 30 days, but it could be immediately like 2-3 days when your check clears.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Except if I'm understanding it correctly, they're not allowing you, they're charging you to then go lend it out. So instead of making 6, you're only making 1.
Correct.
So whether
you're making 1%.
Yeah. So for me, in my head, I guess I was combining the 6 and the 12 and then subtracting. So if you want to take it from the 6, you want to take it from the 12.
Same difference.
It's whatever. Yeah. I think what people have to realize, and this is something that I'm always on, is, returns sound great, but people need to properly evaluate a risk return. And this is something my dad's big on. And it's been something that has been an interesting conversation with you. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually now I just closed on the 16 unit. I just bought a 16 unit down in Florida with my dad. And we were talking about whether to buy it cash or with a loan. And we were going back and forth, and he's like, well, if we just buy cash, we're borrowing at like 3.6%. So you're basically saying, are we better off staying in cash and making 6 or lending it out? And, kind of looking at that risk return of what you could go make it out as. And I think people need to be careful because, hard money loan at 12% is a hell of a lot riskier than keeping the money in at 6%. So I think people need to properly evaluate, what they're doing. And again, it's not, it's 6 versus 13%, with that 1% delta probably being much safer than 12. I don't know the risk behind the whole life insurance. As we were talking beforehand, I am definitely newer to this whole space and learning as well. But I think people need to keep that in mind, that as you look at different returns and different things, different types of assets, let alone the deal and the leverage and whatever, and the operator within that asset class is going to be widely variable. So just don't be like, oh, this is great, my money's now going to make, 13% with another 4% growth. You got to weigh up the variables between, keeping in one thing versus another, which a lot of people don't think about, but I'm sure obviously is something you guys weigh up heavily.
Yeah, I love that. And if I can add one thing to that. So let's talk about that. So yeah, that was private lending. Private lending can be risky. I mean, there's a lot to it, a lot to know about it. So let's talk about how wealth can really be built for just the average person. We give away 90 cents of every dollar to somebody else. And a lot of that goes to debts, right? Our car loans are whatever, 4 or 5%. How about those credit cards that we all have and we all have been trained to use, and they graciously just keep giving us more of them? What are you guys paying on your credit cards? What interest rate?
I honestly have no idea. I just always pay it off.
That's smart.
Same. I barely use a credit card, but when I do, I pay it off in full. But the answer to the question is, it's typically like 18 to 35%.
Right. So let's just take 20%, right? Let's just say your Visa charges you 20%, and every month you're not like us, we all pay our credit cards off, which is prudent, but a lot of people don't. And if you're paying a monthly payment to Visa and you're paying $200 a month on your Visa balance, and that's 20%, you're effectively giving them 20%. So forget about the private lending. Let's say you change that one thing and you put your money in this privatized banking system, right? That's making you this 6%, which 4 of that is guaranteed. Then you take that money out and let's say you pay off your Visa. So you got enough money in your savings, you pay off Visa. Now, all of a sudden, remember, you're making in the first year that 1% delta there, the 6 minus the 5, and your Visa is 20. So you paid Visa off. Now that $200, you could go below that. Or if you were smart, you would treat your money the same way you treat the bank's money, and you'd make your money just as valuable. You take the $200 you were given to Visa and you put that $200 back in your privatized banking, or heck, put it in your bank account. I don't care where you put it. You effectively just took back wealth of 20%. You literally just took back the 20% you used to give away, and now you've got 20% return going into your bank account. And you didn't change anything except for one thing, and that was where your money went. So right there, there's really no risk in that outside of you just paid your credit card off. But if you did that, and then you took the money that's going into your privatized bank, plus the money that you just took back from Visa, and then every 3 months, you took more money out and you paid off the next Visa, or the next Discover, or Home Depot, or Amazon, you pay, and then you're out of debt. And all the money you were given to your debtors is now going into your account. What would your blended return be? If they were all credit cards, it would be over 20%. About 19.98 is the average in what we see. But then you take all that money and you pay off your car. And now you write the check that you used to write to Toyota, Ferrari, whatever you drive, and you write that check back to your account. How much wealth did you just build by just taking back the money you're giving away to everybody else? Mm-hmm. And forget about the specially designed and engineered whole life. Like, listen, folks, if you could do this with a regular bank account. If you literally just focused on taking back the money you're giving away to everybody else, you could build wealth very quickly by not working any harder, not working any longer, not giving up control of your money, and not taking on any additional risk. You're just taking back the money you're giving away. Yeah. But the banking policy allows you to earn the uninterrupted compound interest on all of your money.
So I'm curious because I'm sure you talk to a lot of people who are in difficult situations, trying to achieve financial independence, things of that nature. The largest barrier that I've seen is not necessarily what people do when they have money, because I think, there's so many examples of you put in a couple $100 a month into, just into the stock market, compound interest in 65 years, you have $1 million+ or several $100,000 or 2 million. There's tons of examples of that. Obviously the earlier you do it, the better. And I understand a lot of people are 30, 40, 50 years old and still have problems. So they don't necessarily have that time. But for me, it's that first part of the equation that I see a lot of people have trouble with, which is getting to a place where their income and their expenses are not equal, and that they're not living below their means, and they're not having the ability to have money to put into whatever that vehicle is, whether it's the best vehicle in the world or the worst vehicle in the world, to be perfectly honest. How many people do you come across that are, just struggling with that? And do you have advice for, people to overcome that, or, adjust what they're doing, or go that route?
Well, obviously I run into those people all the time. We do hundreds of calls, and, I run into people all the time that are living right up to their income. They make more money, they spend more money, and their income and their expenses are identical. But when you really look at that, and you really look at somebody that's income and their expenses are identical, a lot of times you really have to not so much look at their income. I mean, we can always say, oh, go make more money, go work overtime, get a second job. Who wants to do that? Mm-hmm. The gurus or the Dave Ramseys of the world say, oh, eat rice and beans. And then when you're sick of rice and beans, eat, beans and rice. You know what I say? I say, I like Starbucks, and I'm not going to stop drinking Starbucks. I'm going to find a better way to make my Starbucks possible, right? That's what I do. So if somebody's at income and expenses identical, and this is very common in, a lot of younger people that are just out of school, here's where they basically should start looking is look at where your money's going. Go through all those places you write checks to every month that is basically making those expenses. And how many of them are you making extra payments on to try to get rid of these debts? So a lot of people have credit cards and they're not making the minimum payments. They're making a little over minimums, or maybe a lot over minimums, trying to get rid of those credit cards. But it just never seems like it makes a difference. So if people were to change, how they look at that, and if they reduced it down to the minimum, now I know that's never going to get rid of your debts, but we're not going to pay debts off the same way we used to. If you did that, that would free up a little extra money. Now, if we then took all your debts and we organized them and we stacked them in what's called a snowball, and this is where a lot of people don't know this, which is surprising to me. A lot of people try to pay their credit cards off where they try to pay the highest percentage interest rate off first, which might be the highest balance. That's backwards. You start with the lowest balance. Even if it's the lowest interest rate, you go with the lowest balance to the highest balance. Highest balance is the last one you pay off. That's called snowballing. It allows you to use velocity in your favor. But then you take the payments that you were paying on each one of those credit cards or each one of those debts, smallest one. Let's say it's only $50 a month. When you pay that debt off, you take the $50 and you write that check to yourself. Today, you don't even need to write checks. You just do a transfer, set up a monthly transfer, set up a monthly bill pay, and that money goes back into your account. Every 3 months, you take that amount that's accumulated in there and you apply it to the next credit card or the next debt. And again, you just keep doing this straight down the line. And every time you pay down a credit card, you take the difference in what you would pay on the minimum to what is now due with the reduced balance, and you recapture and recycle that money. And you keep doing this over. What you're doing, folks, and you don't even realize you're doing this, you are using the same philosophy of what a bank uses, called velocity. The second thing you are doing now is you are now using and moving your money just like a bank does. When you walk into a bank, guys, when you take your money into the bank, it's a good feeling, right? You make a deposit and you say to the teller, I want you to try this. You give the teller a dollar bill and you say, or $100 bill, and you say, I'd like you to take this $100 bill and I'd like you to put that in my little box that you have in the back, the one with my name on it. And I'll be back next month, the month after, to pick my money back up. Is that what the bank does? No. The bank takes your money and immediately lends it out in those little glass cubicles to somebody else. They're moving money. Money has to be in motion, but we've never been taught this. What we do with our money is park our money, leave it sit. It's like putting your money in a stagnant pond to die. Your money needs to be moving like a raging river. And that's what banks do with money. That's what every business in the world does with money. That's what you guys do with syndications. Money's always moving. Groceries are always moving off shelves. Cars are moving off lots. Every business in the world moves money. They don't park their money and leave it sit like we are taught to do. So that's the first parts of that. But let's go one more round. This is something I see even more common. When somebody gets out of college or somebody gets into corporate America and gets a job, the very first thing they do, because they've been taught to do this their whole lives, they've been conditioned, mentally conditioned. And listen, this is the bullshit that goes on out there. We are taught, literally conditioned from a young age to give up control of our money. Think about what you've been taught your whole life. What do you do with your money when you get a job? Oh, we got this great 401k, right? Think about it. This retirement plan. Let's put our money in the retirement plan. Why? Why do we do that? Oh, we got to save for that retirement day. What is retirement to you? Oh, the day when I retire and I get to sail off into the sunset. Bullshit. Like, that's not retirement. Retirement is the day you get to call the shots and decide when and how you're going to work, not some miracle day. I'll tell you what happens when the people stop working at retirement and decide to sail off into the sunset. They graduate. Nice way of saying die. They don't make it. That's fact. Okay. So we've been taught to give our money to these institutions, these 401k plans. And we've been taught, okay, well, it's easy. We'll give you the ability to payroll deduct it, put it into this 401k, and we'll give you a tax deduction. Awesome. Great. I get to not pay tax on that money that goes in, but do you really not get to pay tax on that money? No, you gave up your best dollars today. Folks, look at what's going on right now. The Fed just printed, how many trillion is it now? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 6? Do we even know?
A lot of trillions.
How many trillions of dollars did they just print? You know what that means? That means that your dollars, your current dollars you hold in your hand just got weaker. They buy less. Go to the grocery store. Hell, go to Home Depot. Like, what does wood cost now? Folks, this is called inflation. And a lot of people think inflation means that things get more expensive. Absolutely not. Things don't get more expensive. Your dollars buy less. Your dollars are worth less. Why? Because the Fed just printed $3 trillion out of nowhere. It's fake money. It's fiat. It's funny money. But that $3 trillion, you know where it got its value? From your dollars. From the dollars in your wallet today, they just stole the value from them dollars. You can be pissed off, but the truth hurts, folks. This is what's happening right now. It's been happening for hundreds of years. But you are okay because you've been taught to just give up control of your money, park it somewhere in someone else's control, and wait for your dollars to grow in Wall Street. And I love what you said. I was in Wall Street 16 plus years. If you put your money in Wall Street for the next 30 years and never touch it, it will be worth more. But that's not what happens. We all know that. What we actually do with money is the opposite of what Warren Buffett says. Warren Buffett says, buy low, sell high, don't lose money. Simple philosophy. It works in Wall Street and real estate. But is that what people do? Well, look around right now. Where's your money going? How many people are opening Robinhood accounts, piling money in the stock market? I wish I could draw this for you guys, but where is the market right now today? The highest point it's ever been. Is Main Street looking like it used to, guys, in Long Island? Because it's not here in Buffalo. There's businesses closing every day. There's businesses not open. Is COVID going away? No. Are companies going bankrupt? Yeah. But why is Wall Street at the highest point it's ever been at? It's because of speculation and manipulation. That's why. I was there. I can say this. I know the facts. So you're going to put your money in Wall Street right now at the highest point the market's ever been. You know what you just did? The opposite of what Warren Buffett said. Warren Buffett said, buy low. What did you just do? You bought high. Wake up. Then what are you going to do when the market tanks next year, which it will? Mark my words, the market is going straight to the shitter next year. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to know anything about who I am. Look at Ray Dalio. Look at Warren Buffett. Why are they not buying? Clues, patterns, choices. CPC, folks. Remember that. You have clues. The clues are all around you right now. The patterns. The market works in 7 to 10 year patterns, folks. We're in the 12th year. Okay, 12th year of a 7 to 10 year cyclical pattern. Where do you think it's going to go? Choices. What choices are you going to make today? Okay, the choices you make today are going to be the choices that determine the rest of your financial future. It's called the financial butterfly effect. Whatever choices you make today with your money will determine what happens the next 5, 10, and 15 years. So if you're going to put your money in the market today, you're buying high. And when the market tanks, you're going to get scared. Reality is going to kick in. You're going to wonder how you're going to make your car payment, your Visa payment. You're going to say, okay, well, I got this money in Wall Street. Do I keep it there because I know that's what I'm supposed to do? Or do I take it out to pay my car payment, my mortgage, and all these things? Folks, reality kicks in and you will take your money out of the market because that's fact. That's what happened in 08. It's what happened in 2000s. So you sold low and you lost money, the opposite of what you should do. What people should be doing right now is looking at their money very carefully and saying, do I want to ride the roller coaster next year? Do I want to keep putting money in my 401k to get this deduction today only to pay taxes in the future? Where do you guys think taxes are going? Seriously, let's go there. Where do you think taxes are going in the future?
Yeah, I really have no idea, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And nor do I, but where do you think?
Higher.
Absolutely. Don't taxes always go up? They do, or they stay the same and they tax us on more stuff. Mm-hmm. So if taxes are going to go up, why would we take a deduction today at the lowest tax rate we're going to probably have to pay taxes on a higher amount later? And we gave up control of all that money. What people should do is take back control, and listen, we're all in real estate. We're in real estate because it's the greatest investment on earth. Take your money, put it in real estate. Like do something that puts you in control of your money and creates cash flow for you. I'm not going to, pretend to take credit for this, but Kiyosaki, we've all read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He talks about cash flow. Wealth is not determined by the amount of money you have on a balance sheet, the amount of money you have in your 401k, the amount of money in your bank account. Wealth is determined by how much cash flow you got coming in. Because if the whole market tanks tomorrow and you had multiple lines of income coming in, do you tank with the market? No. But if you had all your money in a 401k and tomorrow the market just goes to hell, what's your net worth look like? Now you got real problems.
Yeah. That's why
I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good because I personally have had a real hard time understanding IRAs and 401ks, and so many people push me into it. And I'm going to say something a little bit against my mom here, but she always encouraged me to do it. And for her, it was, she did both my parents did a tremendous job of living below their means, retiring early. And that's why I sometimes have a tough time understanding the population at large, because I was taught from a very young age that that's just kind of how you lived and that's how you did well. And that's what, the average millionaire does. Right. So I still, though, as I look at it, I've never understood the IRA 401k. And the reason I did not want to put any idea on future taxes is because the God's honest truth is I have no idea. And I don't want to try to predict my future, let's say retirement on whatever, on 50 years from now, trying to figure out if it's going to go higher or lower. There's no way to possibly know. I understand you guys may feel it's probably going to go higher. I don't want to bank my future on probablys. So for me, it was always, okay, look, everything else gets taxed. Let me pay tax today, put it into tax advantaged vehicles like real estate or other things where at least even at worst case, if it's capital gains, I'm making I'm paying anywhere from 0 to at the very high end, 20% instead of, the high end of ordinary income, which can be upwards of, 40%, which is basically double. So for me, it was always bite the bullet today where I know what it's going to be and I can plan for it, instead of 50 years from now when I genuinely have no clue.
Think of what you just said. That was brilliant. I don't even know if you know what you just said there, but you are unwilling to accept the reality of what so many people have told you to do. Put your money in an IRA. Oh my God, you got to put your money in this 401k or this IRA. And you've been like, no, I'm just going to keep control of my money and I'm going to put it into assets that I benefit from today. And those assets I benefit from today, i.e. real estate, are going to pay me income and allow me to have the life I want today, tomorrow, and someday in the future, which I have zero control of any of them. I don't know whether taxes are going to be higher or not, but I think today taxes are what they are. And I understand that. So I'm going to put my money in something that gives me control of that today. It's brilliant. It's what I've been kind of saying is that's the problem. You are an anomaly. You are the 1% out there. Both of you are, because you understand that, but the average person doesn't. Why is it that you've been, go ahead, please.
No, I have that fight all the time. I don't have any IRA I don't have any. I never had a job that offered 401k, but I've always, Chris, we've spoken about it because people always say, put the maximum in and take the deductions. And I say, fuck it. I'll pay what I have to pay and I'll take my money and I'll put it where I want it to go. I feel the same way. It's a very, it goes against probably everyone's common thought, but that stuff does nothing for you if you never get there. Or if you get to another level that you never thought you were going to be at, and you can't touch it. It hamstrings you as opposed to give you power to do what you want to do. So I get that. It's hard, conceptually people don't understand it though, because that's what the herd says to do.
The herd says to do that for the same reason of why I used to say to do that is that's how we made money. Advisors make money off of that. That's how they do it. Banks make money. Wall Street makes money. And the things that you're doing, Wall Street can't make money off of you. You're taking control of your money. Wall Street can't take and make money off of you putting money into a privatized banking because you're in control of your money. You again, like I said, you are both the anomaly because you understand that you don't want to put money into something that you can't have access to it till 59 and a half. Like, we're all young here. I'm probably the oldest one. I'm 43. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's way too far in the future for me to even rationalize with myself as to what that's going to be. I want today to happen because the only time I can control, I don't know if you guys can see my watch, but it says the right time. It says now because it's always the only time now. Like, if we can't use our money, make our money move today and take advantage of that money to live our perfect day, then what is the purpose of our money? Why do we have this tool called money? To give it to somebody else so they can make money on it? No, that's just what you've been taught so that somebody else can be in control of your money, i.e. the banks and Wall Street and the advisors. No disrespect to advisors. I was one. I can say this. I earned the right to say this. And I know the truth now. And I am not liked by financial advisors because I'm out there speaking to tens of thousands of people about this, taking money out of their pocket. But you know what? This is one of the most critical times in our lives. In all of your lives. Like, everything that's happening around you right now is so vitally important that you are in control of your money because they're taking your control away of everything else, aren't they? Like, they're trying to take away control of our real estate too. We can't evict tenants that aren't paying us rent. That pisses me off. I go on rants about this on how it's not even right that we can't run our business. The government tells us how to run our business. Don't let the government or Wall Street tell you how to control your money. Just do it yourself. Real estate is the greatest investment on earth. You want a tax deduction? Learn real estate. You don't want to pay taxes to the government? Okay. You watch the thing about Trump not paying much money. Learn real estate. Learn about depreciation. Learn about rolling properties year over year. Folks, it's all in the tax code. Also, you don't want to pay tax on your money that you make? Great. Find a place you can put your money where you don't pay tax, but make sure that place gives you control of your money. God, I'm on fire right now because I'm pissed. I'm so pissed off at what's going on in the world right now. And I'm even more pissed off that people just can't understand that to change their financial futures, they change one freaking thing in it. That's it. And everything else will be changed. But it is that simple. But yet everybody wants to say, oh, that sounds too good to be true. Oh, I heard that was a scam. Oh, there's no way it works that way. Remember the Will Rogers quote, the problem in America isn't what you don't know, it's what you think you know.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask, because, like everything, pros and cons. So what are the downsides to whole life? What are the restrictions? What are the downsides? What are things people should be aware of before they even consider it? And this is for myself because I don't even know the answer to it.
That's okay. It's a great question.
Piggyback off that for people listening. Is there a minimum, a maximum? What's the take to get involved? Because that answer will probably flow.
Absolutely. Let's get all these right out of the way. So first off, what are the negatives? It's the most important thing we can talk about because there are negatives. Now, before I talk about that, remember, we're not talking about the whole life you go to your life insurance store and buy. This is so vitally different. It's completely engineered and designed for banking. So it's not something you're going to get from your advisor. It's not something you're going to get from your bank. It's something you have to find someone like me or someone that does and specializes in privatized banking. Otherwise, you're hopeless. So what are the negatives? First off, let's use 10 grand, easy number to do math on. I put 10 grand into my banking policy. I go back within the first 30 days when my check clears and I want to take that 10 grand out. I can't take all of my 10 grand. Okay. I can take up to 90% of that 10 grand out in the plans we design. 90% of the 10 grand. So you just gave up control and access to 10% of your money for doing this. That's a big negative. Year 2 comes. I put another 10 grand in. How much can I take out? About 95% of that money that I deposited. Year 3, in most of the plans we design, you have more money than what you actually deposited. Year 4 or 5, I'll give you an example. My most current plan, which is my 7th banking policy, I put in $30,000. And in the 5th year, my $30,000 I deposit that 5th year earns 10.7% cash on cash return. Okay. 10.7 minus 5 is what? Well, let's just round it up to 11. 11 minus 5 is what? 6%. My spread is 6, not 1. You see, that's compound interest working. So that's a huge negative. What is another big negative? Not everybody can qualify. Let's just say you're not healthy. Let's say you're obese. Let's say you have insulin-dependent diabetes. You can't get one of these plans. And then you got to find somebody else's life to insure and be the owner of it like the banks do. And if we have time today, I'm going to tell a story of how the banks do this. So that's another negative. What's another negative? 4% guaranteed. Can you make more money than 4% somewhere else? Sure. But why not make money twice? I mean, that's a negative that you can make more than 4%, but you got to look at this. A lot of people come to me and like, oh, I can make way more than 4%. I sure the hell hope you can, because otherwise, like we shouldn't even be talking if you don't know how to make more than 4%. But I'm not talking about making 4%. I'm talking about making 4% uninterrupted on your money while still having the right to use that money and invest it. Because I always get Wall Street people saying, oh, I'm making way more than Wall Street. Okay, so what if you change that one thing, you put your money over here, and then you take your money out and you put it in Wall Street? Aren't you making money twice in whatever that spread is? So these are some of the negatives. Not everybody can get it. Okay, the second negative, you can't access all your money in the first couple of years. That's a big negative. So those are the negatives on it.
Is there an age restriction?
Yeah. So like once the privatized banking we build, once you hit 70 and over, it gets to be less effective. But let's talk about minimums, maximums. So 6 months old is how old you got to be to start this. Don't think we have a problem there. It's usually effective to about 68 to 70. After that, it's just not going to make sense. Okay. Because the cost of the insurance portion that is mandatory by the IRS is going to be too expensive. But what is the minimum amount you can deposit? Is this just for the wealthy? You know, is this only something wealthy can do? Not at all. How old are you guys?
Almost 29.
29 and 33. Okay, so your minimum's 290, your minimum's 330. 10 times your age. So I'm 43, 430 is my minimum. What's the max? How much can I put in? $1 million a year is the max right now. And I know you're like, oh, no one puts that in. Listen, I just had somebody yesterday that wanted to put 1.2 in, and I had to tell them they could only do $1 million. They were pissed. Like, that's the max. The other thing too, let's go back to your negatives. What about somebody that sets up one of these plans and they set it up for $1,000 a month, but then all of a sudden they lose their job and they can't do $1,000 a month? Great. When we build these, we build them at the maximum. If we build you a plan at $1,000 a month, that's the most you can ever put in. You can never put $1,200 in. You can never put $1,500 in. There's IRS rules that we're going to build it to. 1,000 is your max. But let's just say you lose your job. Great. The next year or the next month, if you can't do 1,000, we have the ability to go down by 60%. So that 1,000 can now become 400 a month. If you can't make 400 a month, well, if it was the first year, that's a problem. But if it was second, third, fourth year, we can use the cash value to support the plan. We can use the dividend to support the plan, but you have a 60% float that you can change your amounts. Did I miss any of the questions?
So you're saying, because this is new to me, you're saying you have to continually contribute a certain amount.
So when we build these, we can build them. Let's say you just had money in your bank account and you just want to dump that money in. We can do that. We can dump it in. But then because of the IRS rules, we have to then make recurring deposits. You want to remember how we're building this. We want this to mimic and be just like your bank account. This is basically a better banking account for you. Okay. So you're making monthly deposits into your bank or leaving money in your bank. So this is the same thing. You're just changing one thing, is where your existing dollars that you're saving are going. If you're putting money into a 401k, let's back down your 401k contributions to the match, because I can't give you free money and your employer can. Let's take the amount you were putting there and let's move that over here. We're not creating new money. That's the one thing. When I talk to people, I'm never telling them, let's save more money. I'm telling them, let's look at where your money's going today and save that and change where that goes.
So what about in the scenario where yourself, you hit hard times, you lose a ton of money, you owe people money, you just can't make contributions anymore? I know you said there's ways to back into it, but
sure.
I mean, there's plenty of times people fall on hard. Mm-hmm. Doesn't it then somewhat turn into a liability for people instead of an asset?
No, because it's like a bank account.
Put money in.
What happens if you hit hard times and all of a sudden you owe a bunch of people money and you need money? Don't you just empty out your bank account and pay people? Same thing here. Just close the account, take all your money out and use it where you got to use it. There's no restrictions to that. You can take your money out anytime you want. And as long as it's not the first couple of years, you're going to be taking out more than what you put in anyway. So take it all out, close it out. If you definitely hit hard times, I mean, that's an option.
So you're saying you can just take the money and cancel the policy? Sure,
anytime you want. The insurance company probably wouldn't mind at all because now they're not on the hook.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Do you lose any of your principal, or do you lose any if it's like within a year? You probably do, right?
Yeah. So remember in the first year, I said if you made $10,000 deposit, let's say you got $9,000, you got a differential of 10%. You're going to lose in the first year. Second year, maybe you lose 5%. Third year and beyond, you're in the money. You're making money every single time because of that interest and that compounding. Gotcha. So the first 2 years, yeah, that's a factor. I mean, you could lose money in the first 2 years if you put money in and all of a sudden you just hit hard times and you can't do it. But that's just being prudent.
Is there and I know we're running up at time, so we'll let you go. I know you said, and this is the last one, and then we'll let you go. The 4% guaranteed, is there what's that backed by? And then is there credit worthiness, certain ones are more risky than others on payments, or there's a delta on payments? Is there ever, fluctuations, stuff like that?
Great question. So the insurance companies we use are ginormous companies like Mass Mutual, American United Life. These companies Mass Mutual has been 168 years. And if you look at Mass Mutual, they're not just some rinky-dink company. They're I don't even know what they're worth, trillions of dollars that they have. And they just did a stress test with COVID. And they said, and I might get this number wrong, so don't hold me to this, but they said, if we had to pay out every death benefit on the books, if we had to pay out every liability we have, how much money would we have left? How much do you think if a giant insurance company that's been around 168 years, if they had to pay off every single thing they had on the books and liability, how much money would be left? You can just guess.
Don't even have a Scooby.
40 billion. And that would be bad for that company if they had to do that. So that's their strength. They have ratings, just like, they're AM Best, Standard, Moody's, and all them, they're rated. We only use the top rated companies. If it's not a top 5 rated company, we do not use them. So and then how are they backed? Well, banks are backed by FDIC, if you actually think that's real, but that's what they're backed by. Insurance Yeah, I'm not even going to go there, dude. Just do your research on that. You're laughing. I love it. Insurance companies are not only backed by the whole credit and faith of their assets, because insurance companies don't print fiat money. Banks, they make fiat money. Okay. It's the Fed. It's how they do it, right? You've heard of this, and you give them $100, they basically keep 10%, and they create 90 cents out of, or $90 out of thin air. Insurance companies, if they make a promise to you for $1, they have to have $1. So it's Austrian economics. The other thing, there's state and federal backings. Why did AIG in 2008 not go bankrupt? Why could the government not allow them to fail? They were too big to fail. And if they did, and also there's insurances that the Fed and the states have to protect insurance companies. Insurance companies, if banks go down like Lehman did, it sucks. If insurance companies go down, folks, it's all over. So they can't let insurance companies, especially big ones like we use, go under.
Gotcha. Awesome. Chris, appreciate you coming on, sharing your wisdom and stuff. If people want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, follow you, where can they do all that stuff?
Well, can I give your audience something for free?
Sure.
What if I got one of 2 books? You can have them both for free. So Private Money Guide and Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. This book is all about what we've been talking about today, the privatized banking. So to get that book for free, just go to chrisnaugle.com. 2 swipes on the mouse and there's a free book. Click it. I can give you the ebook for free, or you get the hardcover. All you do is you pay the shipping and then we'll send it to you. And everything I have is on my website, chrisnaugle.com, all the free videos. I truly believe that your best stuff should be given away for free. It's all there.
Gotcha. Awesome. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge. Guys, definitely go check out all his stuff. The one thing I'll do say is, just like everything else, make sure you do your own research. Make sure it's right for you. Not everything is right for anyone. Would never recommend one thing, whether it's an IRA, real estate, the stock market, whole life insurance, to everybody and anybody. So go do your research. Chris is going to be a great place to start. Good resource, does a lot of stuff like this and others. So go figure out if it's right for you. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. If you are, please send it to someone that you think would get a ton of value from this episode. Chris, once again, thanks for coming on, bud. It was great.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.